All right, we'll continue with the practice. We just finished step 14. Step 15 has a few steps to it. We want the headings to really stand out. So we're going to apply some various formatting. So we're going to select A4 through E4, and we're going to make it bold and italic. So I'm going to scooch this over, and I'm going to go over to A4, E4. So that's this column right here. And I want it to be bold, so I have to go to Home, and I want it bold. Now notice bold is already available. If you look at it, it looks like it's been pushed in. That's because A4 has bold, but the other ones do not. So really what you got to do is you got to turn it off and then turn it back on. So if you, let me undo this. And let me undo it again. There we go. So I highlighted these four or these five cells, and I wanted everything to be bold. But there's a mixture of bold and non-bold. You can tell that because the button's pushed in. So I push it, that turns it off. Notice inventory item is no longer bolded, and now I bold everything. And then the next thing is it wants to have italic. Okay, I'm going to bring this back. Now we want to apply a thick bottom border. So with those cells still selected, we have the border. It's right here in the font group. It's interesting. It really has nothing to do with fonts, but you can apply borders to anything. So we'll do if I were to click the icon, it's going to give me a bottom border. Well, I want a thick bottom border. So I have to choose the down arrow, and you look through this. We have thick outside border. Don't want that. Notice we have double bottom border and all sorts. Right here, thick bottom border. So we're going to click that. Notice that the icon has changed to a thick bottom border if you need to apply that someplace else. All right, so we did the second part. We want to change the orientation of the text in this range to angle counterclockwise. And then we want to make a middle alignment. So it's under alignment, and it's this icon here. You'll notice it's got a little AB on an angle with a little arrow. So if I click that, you'll see they wanted, was it angle counterclockwise? Right here, angle counterclockwise. And you can see what it's going to look like. So I will click that, and you'll see that each of those items are now angled. And then what we're going to also do is they wanted to have middle alignment. So that's going to be this one right here. And then if we click outside, we can see what these look like. Now, personally, I probably would not have changed the A4. I think I would have left that as non-angled, but that's what he wanted us to do. All right, so that was number 6. That was step 15. All right, now we want to do on the promotions worksheet. We want to change the format for B5 to long date format. And then we're going to use the format painter to apply that B5 to this other range. So we'll come back to this in a moment. So I'm going to scooch that over. So we want to be on promotions. And then we wanted to, let me just scooch this back. We want to have it long date format. So we will click on B5. We'll go to number. And then right now, notice it says date. Let's click the little down arrow next to it. And you'll see there's an option for long date. That includes the day of the week, the month, the day of the month. And right now it says 2025 because that's what the entry is. So I'll click that, and you'll see that it provided all these asterisks. And so what we're going to do is we're going to widen it. The instruction says widen as needed. So when you see all those pound signs, I didn't mean asterisks, they're pound signs. Let me scooch it back. All these pound signs, that means there's a number there that is too big to fit. So then all you have to do is scooch it. You can double click and make it a little bigger. I'm going to scooch that a little bigger. All right, so I'm going to bring this back. And you'll see that use the format painter. We're going to apply the format that was in cell B5 to B6 through B8 and C5 through C8. Now here they're just having you use the format painter. There would have been nothing wrong with just selecting all of those and applying it all at once. So it's just they want you to practice the format painting. That'll save you a lot of time. So I select B5 and I'm going to double click the format painter. Remember, a single click just gives you that application once. And you have to go back and dip your brush again. Here we want to actually have it to stay until I'm finished with it. So I'll double click it. And I'll swipe along that, and I'll swipe along there. Once we're done, we just hit the escape key. And I might just scooch that over a little bit. And then you'll see that adjust widths as necessary. And then we want to apply the heading to A4 through D4. So heading 2 is that style. So we have to highlight those. And if I scooch my cursor over a little bit, my screen over a little bit, you can see column D. And then we want the heading 2 style. So in the styles group, you got cell style, and I want heading 2, just like the one that we applied on the inventory. Okay, and so that has been applied, and you can see, I'm going to scooch this out just a wee bit. There we go. And you may decide, I think that is enough space. So I think the adjusting is just for the dates. Okay, so now the instructions want us to do a little bit work with the documentation, actually all the pages. So we want to change the height and width to 1 page. So when each of these will print, they will scale down to fit on 1 page per worksheet. And then on the documentation and promotions, we're going to change the orientation to landscape. So the first one is I want to change the width and the height to 1 page. So I'm going to click on inventory. It's under page layout. And you'll see we have width and height. So we're going to make that 1 and 1. We're going to go to promotions. Same thing. 1 and 1. And then last but certainly not least is documentation. 1 and 1. So that is the first part. We just did that. So on each of these worksheets, inventory, promotions, and documentation, we changed the height and width to 1. So again, each of those, if we were to print them, would appear on 1 page. Now, on the documentation and promotions, we want that to be, the orientation to be landscaped. So promotions, orientation, again, to be under page layout. Under the page setup group, we want orientation, landscape. We'll do the same thing for documentation. Because you'll notice it's pretty big. So while, yes, it would still fit, but it might scale it so much that you can't actually read the text. So we'll do landscape. All right. And we'll come back. Step 18. On the documentation worksheet, we want today's date in A8, A21, and A22. In B7 and C22, your first and last name. And then in C7, we want to have that text. So I'm going to scooch this over and I'll just type it in. All right, so in A8, I don't know why we skipped A7, but I'm just going to follow what they do. We're going to do today's date, which is I think it's the 17th today. Yeah, my lab doesn't care. And then just do 24. And then we want it in A21 and A22. And even though it's off the page, I, again, don't know why they're having you do that, but that's what the answer had us do, or the instructions have us do, so we'll include that there. And then in B7, we're going to do our first and last name, so I'll just do mine, and C22. Again, doesn't really make sense. I don't know why it's off the page, but that's the way it is. Okay. Yeah, that's really strange. I bring back the instructions. Notice it says to do today's date in A8 and then your name in B7. So it doesn't make sense. So the last thing I'm going to do is C7. I'm going to add that text. It's probably a misprint in the instructions, but I'll just follow what they tell us to do. So here they want added formulas and formatting to the inventory worksheet. Notice it's already set for word wrap or text wrap, and it made the row bigger. All right, just a couple more steps. We want to add the file name code, the center footer, and then run the spell checker. So easiest way to do that is click on inventory. I do that just because I work across. So I'm going to do page layout, and then I'll scooch this down to footer, and we want to have the file, what do they want? Make sure I got it, file name code, so that's right here, file name. And then I'll change this, click back into the document and change it back to normal and do the same thing for promotions. Oddly enough, now notice here when I clicked on that center footer, notice how it defaulted back to home. So just click the header footer tab here and then do file name. Click outside. We'll just scroll back up and then we'll do documentation. Oddly enough, starting with chapter 3, we don't worry about headers and footers anymore. So just do what they have us do, and we'll put it back to normal. All right. Now we want to check the spell check. Check the spell check. We want to check the spelling, and that you can find under review. You have to do it for each worksheet. So we'll do on a review, and we want spell check. Do you want to continue? Yep. Okay. Here we just ignore it. Just get some weird date thing, so we'll just ignore it. We'll ignore. Notice there's a misspelling, so we want the. So choose the, and we will change it. Okay, so it check the spelling in documentation. You have to go to the other ones as well and do those individually. I don't think there's anything misspelled here. Oh yeah, sweatshirts. So we'll change it. Okay, and that's it. And then again, go to inventory. So when you check the spelling of your workbook, you have to do it each individual worksheet. So I'm on inventory, spell check. I don't know if there's anything misspelled here. Nope, everything's okay. All right, and then last step, you want to display the times the bookstore will be open. So you decide to also add a worksheet header. So we're going to do it on inventory, and then we're going to put this open daily, 10 a.m. to 8 p.m. To the center position of that workbook or worksheet, I'm sorry. So we'll do page layout and scroll to the top, and we'll just click here where it says add header, I'm sorry. So we'll do open daily from 10 a.m. to 8 p.m. and then just click outside and go back to normal. So if I were to just click file and print, it'll show you your header and your footer. Get back. And that is all the steps for the practice. And I will stop that just under 15 minutes.